UFC 302 featuring a main event with lightweight champ Islam Makhachev defending his crown against who you just saw, UFC legend Dustin Poirier, someone who knows all about belts and crowns, is our guy, DC. Daniel Cormier, always good to see you. We're both always excited when you're on the show. How we doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you guys for having me again. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, let's dive into this one and some other stuff.
It's good to see you big time. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you, my brother.
DC, who do you think has the advantage when Poirier and Makhachev face off in the octagon?
You know, it's a tough fight, but you got to kind of lean with the champion. We have seen him beat Alexander Volkanovski 2 times in a row, who was at the time the pound-for-pound #1. He submitted Charles Oliveira. Makhachev has been so dominant lately that while Poirier is a legend and a guy that we have seen for a long time, you got to kind of lean the advantage over to the champion. He seems to be in rare form right now.
Let me make sure I got to pronounce his name correctly. I just want to make sure I have his name, Makhachev. I mean, I just want to make sure I always mess up his name. How do I pronounce his name correctly?
Islam Makhachev. It's like an H, Makhachev. I don't even say it right now. One of his teammates.
Gotcha. There you go. I got to ask you this. What's the weakness in his game, particularly the one you think Dustin Poirier has the potential to exploit?
You know, there aren't many, but if there's an advantage, you would imagine that Dustin Poirier is the better striker. Now, Islam is a great striker in his own regard, but Dustin may be the better boxer. Let's kind of limit it to boxing. Dustin Poirier's boxing is really high level, and I think that is probably where he holds the most advantage.
And I asked him, I said, tell me one thing we can definitely expect to see. And he said, a guillotine. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah. You know, that's one of his moves. So Dustin's never finished anyone with that move, but he has a really tight guillotine. When he fought Khabib Nurmagomedov, he had Khabib in a guillotine. Khabib even said it was very tight. Ultimately, he got out of it. But Dustin, even in his last fight, jumped to the guillotine like 3 or 4 times. I don't know, Molly, if I would advise that with Makhachev, because Islam is a guy that's wanting to take you down. So Dustin jumping guillotine, if he doesn't get it, he will find himself on the bottom. That is not where he wants to be. But look, if you love a move and it's never worked in competition before, wouldn't it be so sweet for it to work for the first time against the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world for the World Championship?
For sure.
I get where you're coming from with that, DC. I just think that it's one of those things you would know are obviously considerably better than me, but I'm of the mindset that when you tell somebody, box me, box me, box me, what you're really saying is, I'm not interested in wrestling you. I'm not interested in grappling with you. That, to me, is what you're really, really saying when you say something like that. Having said that, I asked Dustin Poirier this. Molly and I was asking him about the return of Conor McGregor late next month and what have you. We get all of that, right? I'm of the mindset that the sport is in such a great place, but there's still that extra oomph potentially missing that we're still relying upon him after all of these years to bring to the sport. First of all, I don't know if that's fair. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm certainly not saying it's accurate. I'm just saying I wonder if that perception actually exists. Can you speak to that for a second in terms of where the sport is now, how big this event is, and what you think these two fighters have done and can do for the sport moving forward?
You know, when you talk about these guys, Dustin Poirier's been in there with Conor McGregor, so he's a bigger star today because of the time spent in the octagon with McGregor. Islam Makhachev is a champion now and a guy that is really starting to dominate the division. Look, if he wins tomorrow night, he will now surpass his mentor, Khabib Nurmagomedov, for the longest win streak in UFC lightweight history. But at the end of the day, the sport, as with many sports, is all about the stars. And right now, we have a number of stars that we still have to rely on. When John Jones fights Stephen A., you're in Vegas. When Conor McGregor fights, you guys are coming to Vegas next month. We need to figure a way in terms of the sport as a whole to build more stars so that then First Take and more people are at these big-time fights. Sean O'Malley is a guy that's on the verge of breaking out in that way. Alex Pereira is a guy. So there are guys that are on the cusp, but no one's kind of reached that level of McGregor yet. And John Jones, I don't know if we'll ever see another Conor McGregor because he fought Floyd Mayweather. Yeah. How does a guy that has no fights get a chance to fight Floyd Mayweather?
Yeah. But to Stephen A's point, there were those heydays when it was, GSP and Anderson Silva,
Chuck.
even guys like Rampage and John, where there's just those box office guys. I mean, a lot of them light heavyweights and heavyweights. But I want to go back to the GSP fight. And obviously, we mentioned a couple times, First Take's going to be out there. We're pumped, obviously, to come to Vegas and see it all. So I thought this was interesting when I asked Poirier about McGregor's return. He basically said if Conor's anywhere near where he was before the layoff, I think he clips him. Obviously referring to Chandler.
Yeah.
What do you expect to see in McGregor's comeback fight versus Chandler? And I got one other thing here, too. Because like in football, no one's ever taken 3 years off and coming back. So, I mean, just the layoff in itself, what can we really expect to see?
Well, it's a spectacle, right? I mean, it just feels different when he fights. And it doesn't matter how long he's gone. John Jones was gone for 3 years, came back, submitted Cyril Gane in 30 seconds. So it can happen when you're special. I will say this about Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor has been gone for a long time. He had that nasty leg break where he was sitting on the ground yelling at Dustin Poirier's wife the last time he was in the octagon. The fight and the matchup is what is most key here. Michael Chandler is a guy that, since he got here from Bellator, is so fun and he's so willing to stand and trade. Problem with that is, you do that with McGregor, you put yourself really in danger of getting knocked out. So I think what's exciting people the most is when you think of the matchup, if Conor McGregor is who he is at least a little bit, he could have one of those performances where you go, man, Conor still has it. And that bodes well for the winner of the fight tomorrow night. Because I tell you guys one thing. There are people in line for championship opportunities, but tomorrow night's winner, if they don't say, if McGregor gets through his fight, I want to fight Conor, I think it would be a massive mistake. You always go for the golden goose, who is Conor McGregor.
My producer, DC, you got it, but I didn't realize I said GSP instead of Conor McGregor, but you know what I meant. I was getting excited all about the old greats. S.A.?
Yeah.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, when you say they should demand a Conor McGregor, I'm thinking about Poirier. He's already beat him twice. Obviously, if he was to win this fight, then it's a situation where he's got I shouldn't say a trilogy because he's already fought Conor McGregor about 3 times, if I remember correctly. So it would still be something that you would be interested in seeing. I don't know if I would want to see Makhachev versus Conor McGregor because we know from the Mega Medal that Conor McGregor don't want no part of that grappling. And I don't give a damn about that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and how fun it was. That ain't the same. So that's how I'm looking at it, DC. And so where do you go from here if you don't go the route of Conor McGregor for the winner? Where do you go from here?
Well, there are guys lined up, right? There's a real good guy named Arman Sarukian who is just tremendous, and he fought Makhachev back in the day to a decent fight. The guy's been on an absolute tear. Obviously, Justin Gaethje is always hanging around, even though he lost to Max Holloway last. Max Holloway, who went up to 155 and beat Justin Gaethje and won the BMF championship, has value in that position. So there are a number of options for the winner of the fight tomorrow, especially if it's Islam Makhachev. But Stephen A., if you're Islam, think about this. Khabib Nurmagomedov fought Conor McGregor. That same night, they got into that fight. He jumps over the octagon and goes and fights Conor's corner. Khabib Nurmagomedov went on that night, S.A., from 3 million Instagram followers to 14 million Instagram followers because he was in there with Conor McGregor. Now he's one of the most followed athletes in the entire world. So if I'm Islam and I'm going, I want what Khabib's got, because the followers equate to money. It equates to fame and fortune and everything. You go, I want to find a way to get that guy opposite me, even though I know that it's a very favorable matchup for me. I could fight the biggest name and think that I hold the advantage over him. I'm asking for that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. DC, so good talking to you. Enjoy everything in Jersey. We'll be watching on Saturday night, of course, and then we'll see you in Vegas. So looking forward to having you on set with us out there.
Absolutely.